Oh, hey there, Windy City Ghostbuster fans. I forgot where I was interviewing you for a second. I almost said, welcome to Bob After Dark. Welcome to Why We Bust, the show that dives into the psyche of any cosplayer that dons a proton pack, a flight suit, or in tonight's special case, something a little different. I am your host that's filling in the most, Bob, and I enjoy toast. Alongside of me, as always, is my ever wonderful, ever bearded and glasses producer, James Norman himself, or as I will refer to anyone as his nickname I've given him many moons ago, Norm.
What's up, Bob? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm having an identity crisis at the moment.
I'm sure you are.
I didn't know what show I was hosting. All right, sorry. All right. I'm hosting Why We Bust. I'm not hosting Bob After Dark. That's next. Okay. And tonight I am filling in for some host that's now dealing with the tables being turned on them because I had the tables turned on me last week. So we're kind of going to force her to do an interview this week so she kind of gets an idea of what's it like on the other end of the spectrum here. May I introduce the lovely Windy City Ghostbusters free-floating, roaming vapor, Krystyn.
Hi. I've never been on the show
Krystyn.
before. This is wild. This is so crazy. I'm so excited.
So, if this is your first time ever watching a episode of Why We Bust, it's if you take the root of the title, Why We Bust, it is to learn the reasons why the Ghostbusters community does what they do. Not on a team level, not on whatever. This is highlighting the individual, and every week we come here on a Thursday and we highlight a different member of the Ghostbusters community at large and find out the burning questions. Why do you do it? When did you do it? And all of that good jazz. And since I am the keeper of the host title, jeez, Norm, you had to make my name that, didn't you? Okay, so since I'm the keeper of knowledge this evening, I even decided to wear my special host black for you guys this evening. Tonight we have Krystyn, who is one part Ghostbuster, so she does wear a potato sack like the rest of us. But what she is slowly developing her identity into as a whole is Krystyn is also one of the few costume characters in the hobby that do, I'm assuming Norm's okay, one of the few costumer characters in the hobby that don't don a khaki, a potato sack, as I call them. You are the Windy City Ghostbuster Slymer, and it's really cool because Windy City Ghostbusters has 3 costume characters that do this outside of potato sacks. We have Brienne, who does the Stay Puft Marshmallow. We have Rick's brother, I just blank, Harry, who does the Keymaster, and we have Krystyn here, who is Slymer, and she's kind of developing this persona, all kind of taking it and running with it, and we need to understand not why exactly. And instead of, I wish we would have uploaded the modified logo for this instead, the one you made earlier, Norm, with the Why We Slime instead of Bust, but let's, like any good story, unless I'm Quentin Tarantino, which I'm not, we're not going to start in the middle, then go to the end, then the beginning. We're not doing that. So like any good classic story, let's take it way back to when Krystyn was a wee lass. Tell us what your first memory of Ghostbusters is.
So my growing up, my dad was the classic, like, end of the night, it's after dinner, like, sits on the couch to watch a movie kind of guy. So my first memory of Ghostbusters, I believe it was the first one. And it was just like seeing it with him, because I remember specifically the library ghost was terrifying. was
Yes.
so scary. I was also like, I had some restrictions on the media I was allowed to intake when I was younger. So that was so terrifying to me. But I think there's that, and it's one of those things though where it's like there's that, and then I kind of have a gap for Ghostbusters because it just didn't really come into my life much as like a kid who was, still in elementary school in the beginning of the 2000s.
You just made Norm feel about 20 years older.
Look at his
Krystyn.
face.
I think you have just made at least 3 of his toes turn to dust as we speak. You ever see the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark when they open the Ark of the Covenant and then faces melt off?
Yeah.
No, it's Last Crusade.
Last Crusade with the skeleton.
Where they just
like
aged
whack
and turn to
yeah,
dust.
yeah.
That's what I feel like right now.
Oh,
So,
sorry, MJ. MJ in the chat too.
It's okay. You just totally murdered about half the Ghostbusters community with that comment. Kind of me included, except you and I are close to the same age, so I don't feel
We're closer,
as bad.
Yeah.
So tell us that if Ghostbusters wasn't your life, what was? And I don't want to dive in any trauma by any means, but what did young Krystyn do for fun if you weren't into Ghostbusters and being, indulging your life into something that your back would later regret?
Growing up, a lot of my time, so like a lot of movies. We had a lot of like church functions when I was growing up that we went to, and I read a lot of books, had a wild imagination. Like we were always playing pretend. We had a backyard with this is Indiana, so backyard with the tree and a swing and a deck. So it was, running around outside a lot. I took a lot of Chronicles of Narnia. I read through the entire series by 3rd grade and was just enamored. So then when I learned about Lord of the Rings, I was like, oh my God, this is insane. So a lot of my early nerdy leading activities actually ended up more towards Lord of the Rings, more high fantasy kind of stuff. And it kind of stuck that way through middle school and stuff. And then end of high school is when, right after, at the very end of high school is when I was finally introduced to Dungeons and Dragons. And that
3.5, yeah, that would have been about the same time.
I learned in 4th. I've never actually played a 3.5. I know. At 4th,
gone out the door.
Yeah, it was not good to learn in. So now I play in 5th edition because that's what a lot of people are making games in now. But from probably 17 to 22, I spent so much time on a single game that I still have never play tested at all. But that was kind of the fun for me. So lots of movies, lots of high fantasy was my jam, my big jam.
I'm trying to think early 2000s or mid 2000s fantasy movies. Lord of the Rings, Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Aragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotcha. I look, dude, I was also a fantasy nerd in that same time frame. So we were spoiled because when Norm was younger, he got Kroll and Hawk the Slayer. That was, and I guess Willow.
First of all, don't you talk crap about Kroll. Kroll's fantastic.
Norm also was there when they were chiseling things into stone. So I got to ask, because from one D&D nerd to another, what was your favorite class to play and why?
So at first I liked playing rogues. I liked kind of being able to play out this slithery, sneaky, or sometimes I'd made one that was I would always, what was it I rolled? I think it was just dexterity. But I would always roll with disadvantage on very specific types of movements because I was a rogue, but I was very clumsy, and it wasn't really serious game. But I had a balance, an inner ear issue, or as how I explained it. And so I would always roll, I think it was anything that was like a hop or a step to like one side or the other, or like just trying to dodge something, and just to see if I made it or if I tripped again. A lot of my characters have some sort of odd, goofy weirdness. But so it started as rogue, and that was more like 4th edition. Played a little as a rogue in 5th edition, and then found my truest love to play bards. I love playing bards. All of the bards I've ever played are insane. My first one was based off of Gilderoy Lockhart, and so every time the party did something, of course, like I did it, and every time, but I did actually end up, like, for putting up with me through all of it, I did fully write a song on my ukulele about our travels and our adventures, and played it for everyone at our last. Yeah, I played it for everyone at our last. Like, I was moving away, and so it was the last game I was going to play with them at least for a while. So I performed it for them. It was great.
You should lead with, "Hey, I'm musically talented," because that's probably 88 more times interesting than my interview last week.
Well, that's the only performance I've ever done on the ukulele. But
so you picked up the instrument just because D&D?
No, I had it because I thought it was like cool and fun to learn, and it was. I mean, I had played guitar in the past. I mean, it's different, definitely, but similar in, similar-ish. But and I was moving like from Northwest Indiana to Indy, and I was like, I'm not taking these 2 guitars with me. I have no space. So I ended up selling them, but I got a ukulele. I was like, I can have something little to play.
That's so fun.
And I had my other favorite bard I played. Her name was just Ozzy Osbourne, but said backwards. It's like Ezo and Robeso, I think it was. And she wrote poetry is how she'd inspire, but it was really depressing poetry or just nonsensical. And that's how she would inspire work.
You rolled up a Midwest emo.
Basically.
A modern baseball bard.
Literally.
I love it. Love it. 10 out of 10.
So that was my jam. Currently, I'm playing my first sorcerer.
Ooh, how are you enjoying that?
It's okay. Because this is also the most serious, currently the game I'm playing, it's the most serious game I have played, where like the stakes actually are high. In my past games I've played with folks, and if we take more than 2 points of damage, we're like, how could you? Do you hate me? Like, what is this game? And now it's like, so you took 7 points of damage in that one hit, and we're like level 1, so we're like, oh no, we're going to die.
Quick shout out real fast. Thank you for the 2-month sub, Shannon. We appreciate you.
Woo! Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, guys. I have to drop in once in a while and give a shout out to people when they do stuff like that. But go on.
Absolutely. Oh, but yeah, so I'm playing. He is a young man who has had to run away because where he lives, they think magic is gross and evil. But for some reason, he is magic, and he doesn't know why. So he had to leave or die. So kind of feeling that out. He's a little bit of a like, I'm playing him as like Justin Bieber in his bad boy era kind of thing. It's going great. Last week I won a point of inspiration because I was voted as doing the best like in character play, because strictly the 2 people who voted and wrote something said that it's because we had these guards with us and we poisoned them, and I wanted to leave them for dead, and so I was leading them away to go die. I guess I just did a really good job of convincing them all, like, yeah, I don't feel very well, but I should definitely walk away from the road where help can come. So it's going great, I think.
That's great. So I gotta ask. I'm gonna put you on the spot. This is because I knew that you played, but I didn't know it was this deep. Do you have your favorite dice within arm's reach?
I don't. They're upstairs. I can describe them though. They're purple.
Yes, describe them.
They're purple and they look like it looks like they took two resins, like a dark, like a solid and iridescent like pearl. So it's like a purple and a like iridescent pearl, and they're swirled, and there's little gold numbers.
That's so cool. I always ask I use this term for any tabletop nerd. I always ask the dice goblins, as I call them, because we hoard dice usually. I go to Gen Con every year, and I always walk out with a new set of dice, and it never fails. Yeah. So I always like to ask people, "What's your favorite dice?"
Yeah, well, and I mean, truly, I am a sucker for a good like crossover between nerd things. So if I find anything that's like, oh, this is very clearly from like if someone at like Fan Expo or something was selling like Ghostbuster dice, I'm in. If someone is
Norm,
selling,
can you show her our D6 dice, please?
Do you have one?
So I was going to, mine's in the other room, and Norm's handy, so he's going to do it. We did a one shot last year. We played Ghostbusters, the D6 system. And I can't remember which one who found it, but we all got these sweet mood slime colored dice, and they are literally the perfect.
Nice.
They got the perfect fluorescent to it.
Yeah, it is literally the perfect die for Ghostbusters D&D.
I also have Slimer green too.
He also has Slimer green. So this is going to transition to me being like, "Hey, Krystyn, why don't we do like a once a month Ghostbusters game?" Because I would
be
run.
Fun.
I would.
Yeah,
love
that'd
that.
be a lot of fun.
Yes,
definitely into that. As long as I'm allowed to play the bard-like character and drive everyone absolutely mad.
That's what I did the last game.
I'm in.
I was shooting
somewhere. James Breha is cringing.
He just got awake. His one eye's bulging out of his skull. James ran the game for us. James, we got a group of us together just to be like, let's see how this goes. And the only two people that really had any experience doing like a role play was me and James Bria. And I was like, now James, dude, I don't run games. And he's like, all right, I guess I'm running this, right?
The eternal DM.
But I will run the next session. That's 100% something I will do.
I'm totally down for that. That sounds oh my god, that sounds like so much fun.
So you're obviously a total dork, which there's nothing wrong with that. So you go from being this dork that's playing D&D, right? Do you do any other tabletop or any other gaming?
A little bit, not too much. Only honestly like two other games. I have an old coworker who I worked with in Indianapolis. He writes games. He's published. Actually, I think he and his wife, they both write games. They go to Gen Con every year. Like they're amazing. And during like when shutdown first happened, I hadn't been there for a while because I already moved to Chicago. But he reached out and was like, "Hey, we're gonna start this like Cthulhu-esque game. Would you want to play?" And it was the first one that I would have done that isn't like strictly like D&D. So I was like, absolutely. And I think I played Occultist. Like a real like kind of, hey man, like I was there, man, like it's crazy, man, like total out of his mind, not in our realm of reality kind of dude, and that was a lot of fun.
Norm's cat came on screen, by the way, and is winning the attention in chat.
Oh my god.
Norm, we're supposed to be interviewing Krystyn here, not the cat.
I'm down to interview a cat. You can absolutely interview his cat.
Yeah, I was being facetious. I wasn't being serious.
I'm not.
So you played D&D.
Windy City Ghostbusters cat show.
The cat. Oh, trust me, I got a couple of them myself. So, Krystyn, where does cosplay come in? Because when I first met you, and this is an interesting story, when I first met you, I looked down because I tend to look down when I walk, and I saw your Converse, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this one gets it." And I think were you either wearing Vans Classics, right? When
I
first
think
met
it
you
was.
at the,
I think that was Vans. Yeah, that was my.
yeah, it
Vans,
was the
yep.
Vans Classics. And I looked
The
down and I was
classics,
like,
yep.
all right, this person I'm just gonna force friendship on, because there's only one type of person that wears Vans Classics, and that is my type of people. And I was like, all right, hey, where are you from? And we were chit-chatting, and in my brain, because this was our holiday party last year.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of people there who were from CWC, Customers for a Cause, that were kind of like intermingling with the team.
Oh, I didn't
And
even know
I was
that.
like, are you with the, I was like, oh, you must be with Customers for a Cause. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not. And I was like, where did you come from? So where does your nerdiness come out from? Hey, I'm hanging out playing this game, to now I'm like, I want to play dress up with these idiots.
So like to showing up at a pizza like tavern with a bunch of random Ghostbuster fanatics. Yeah.
Because that was your first experience with us, right?
That was the absolute first experience. Like I hadn't
Okay.
seen you guys at Comic-Cons or anything. I was just like, yeah, I'll be brave and show up to this place of total strangers and 45 minutes from my home. That should be fine.
It was fine.
It was fine. I in the like late 2010s, maybe somewhere around like 2015, 16 or something like that. I mean, I'm from Northwest Indiana. I'm gonna watch the Chicago Thanksgiving Day Parade. I'm gonna watch the Chicago Thanksgiving Day Parade every year. And I remember like seeing that the Ghostbusters come up, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, you go, nerds. And then when I when I moved to Chicago, I especially like after shutdown, I was like, okay, I want to like get out, but I also want to like do some like community service or look into some sort of like charity work, something where I can volunteer my time in a way that's going to like be beneficial, to my neighborhood, to the city. So I'd found a few different like things to like places to work at, and but I was like, I want to do something like fun. I don't know, like more of like a creative type thing. So I kept looking, and then I don't know how I remembered it, but I remember one day being like, oh, there's like that group who does cosplay. They do cosplay out. I guess you could say in the wilderness, in public. That's not at a Comic-Con. Because at the same time too, I was wanting to get back into Comic-Cons and stuff and cosplay. So somewhere in there, maybe it was like some of the advertising. Because if you look at Fan Expo's website or any of their advertising, Windy City is all over the place. That's that guy's face. So somewhere in there, I was like, oh, let me look these guys up. And then I saw it was like the work that Windy City is doing is benefiting a children's hospital. And I was like, cool, no questions. Just going to message the page now. And
hydrate.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people now. So
Krystyn,
yeah, it kind of
hydrate, you monster.
Oh, well, no one said anything. Okay.
Norm and I both said it.
Oh, I thought you said hi to someone
hydrate.
Oh, that's why I was like, oh, let me see who's in here. Oh, there's all these comments I didn't see. But yes, I think, and then I messaged the page and was told about that meeting, that kind of like holiday party thing. And at the time it didn't count, but I was like, whatever, like I'll show up and just get comfortable and like with everyone also out of costume, which would be kind of cool to meet everyone out of costume. Cause when do you do that?
Right.
And so yeah, so that was a lot of fun to meet everyone. There was like, I believe, and actually, if he's still in here, we had like an hour and a half long conversation at the table about the Back to the Future timeline and where it loops potentially. And it was like there was like drawings done on napkins. Like it was very intense and it was so good. But yeah, so that's kind of how I had ended up going from like, hey, I want to like do something, to hey, what are these weirdos doing, to hey, I'm one of these weirdos now.
How did you excuse me, you said you were getting back into conventions and cosplay. Were you doing like convention life cosplay prior to Ghostbusters?
Not a ton. I had gone to a bunch of conventions, just not really like cosplay. Like I went to, I think, almost every Indianapolis convention. I think from what year did it start? The Indie Comic Con.
Oh God. I went to their first one. I've been a couple times because I hung out
Is
with
it
Circuit
like
City.
2010s?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because I remember like we were going to either the first or second one, but then I went for like years in a row. Honestly, Indie Comic Con is slept on. It is a lot of fun. It's huge. And like the first year I went, I remember sitting down, watching for altogether about 5 hours, pieced together an endless dungeon that they had done that they were doing for charity, which was really cool. But I had been to that one, went to Gen Con for a few years. Wizard World.
Hey.
So like I had gone, but I never had actually worked up the nerve myself to do a full cosplay. I would do like almost, I guess you could call it like cosplay bounding, like Disney bounding, where it's like I nodded to something but wasn't like maybe as recognizable.
Sure.
So I have, even now I have a few ideas and stuff, but just nothing had come through fully. So technically, the Ghostbuster potato sack is my first actual fully functioning cosplay.
Okay. And you started with Potato Sack because I think not only did I meet you your first time hanging out with us, I believe I was at your first event in Barrington. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Because we got that picture on the stairwell with Bob doing the Bob pose in front, and Biggie up the stairs in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first one. That was a lot of fun too. I think that was one of my first like library cons even.
What was it like being in your gear for your first time for an event?
It was honestly it was really cool. Because over like as I was like starting to communicate more with the Facebook page about interest, I was like, I gotta revisit all these movies. Like I know I've seen both of the original and I had seen the 2016 at some point, but I was like, I just need to start revisiting all of this, and like, because if I'm gonna do it, might as well be like as movie accurate as I can be.
Sure.
Cheaply.
Right, of course. This ain't no cheap hobby, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So like through revisiting that, kind of helped me prepare what I wanted to wear, like all that kind of stuff. So I putting it all on and seeing it all together for the first time, even though I really didn't make anything, like I had all kind of pieced it together from different stuff. It's that like really, it's such a nice feeling of like accomplishment. Like, look what I put together. Look what I took these pieces and slapped it all up. And I think I already had started kind of aging my pack a little, and I've done a few things.
Real quick, thank you, Shannon, for gifting out some subs, by the way. We appreciate
Oh my God.
you.
Shannon, thank you so much. That's amazing.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. That's worth interrupting for.
Yeah. Go on.
Oh, yeah, so just this like general sense of like, oh my God, this is like I did this thing. This is a thing because I put stuff together. So, and it's really fun to kind of then start adding little things since then. Because it's very different. Even though I don't use it a lot, it's very different now than it was even a year ago.
So we're going to get to the green thing, right? Obviously, that's what you're kind of getting known for these days. So I know you got the green thing down, but
yeah.
we gotta back it up just a pinch.
Okay.
So there is a couple bigger costuming groups in Chicago that aren't Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
One of which being the 501st, which our lovely producer up top there is a proud member of as well. So you went into Ghostbusters over the 501st. Is there any, were you more of a Ghostbusters fan than a Star Wars fan?
So the thing is, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Like I will like just for the funsies, like I like Star Trek as well, but I always really loved like purposefully trying to make Star Trek fans who like didn't like Star Wars as angry as possible.
Rick, where are you at?
Yeah. Like,
The one time Rick ain't in shit. Remember to save this clip.
Someone send it to him right now. But
Yeah.
be like, yeah, I just think Jar Jar is such a breakout character, and it's just so good. Just to see like them slowly like become like angrier and angrier and angrier.
I love it.
But yeah, yes, absolutely. Darth Jar Jar.
Do you see that Darth Jar Jar is going to be in this Lego movie that's coming out on Disney Plus?
Darth Jar Jar is going to be a thing in a new Lego Star Wars film.
Yes, it's canon.
I don't know if that's not canon, but it's a thing.
It's not canon, but it's
canon enough. But
there's also apparently a character in it called Jedi Bob.
I cannot confirm nor deny my contract with Disney Pictures, other than my one rejection letter I got from my TV pilot. But that's another
This is how they were like, hey, sorry we couldn't give you a TV spot, but we'll name a Jedi after you.
Yeah, we're gonna name this Jedi after you. But I'm not the interviewed one here. I'm interviewing you. So you're a big Star Wars fan. Then how the heck did you end up being a snot monster that floats around?
I just didn't know about anyone else.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what I like to hear.
Like legitimately, my knowledge of other costuming groups has come from attending the things that we attend and seeing their booths. Like, yes, I think I had like seen the 501st, I'm sure, at a Comic-Con. I've seen like, very movie accurate Star Wars characters walking around. I have pictures with them at other cons I'd been to, but I think maybe I just didn't like know they were 501st. Oh, I did get in Indianapolis. There is Darth Trooper. I did get a picture with Darth Trooper because Darth Maul is my favorite.
Ray Park is such a nice guy.
The what?
Ray Park, the actor who played Darth Maul, is such a sweetheart. Love him.
I have a story about him.
Let's hear it. Welcome. Why we bust? Thrust out. Why we first fight the Empire. So
at Indiana Comic-Con, I paid to like go get a picture with him, and I was like, I was super stoked. I was like, heck yeah, this is awesome. So I'm waiting in line, and everyone's going in one by one into the curtain, and they open the curtain, have me walk in. And he's like, hey, I'm Ray. Like, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the support. And I looked at him and I go, uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. So he like motions me to come over to him, like, puts his arm around my shoulder, and I put mine around his shoulder, and we take a picture. If I can find it, Bob, I'll have to send it to you.
Yes, that sounds
my
wonderful.
face is something. I'm gonna look right into the camera and do it. It's something like this.
I love it. 10 out of 10.
It's like I'm both terrified and so happy at the exact same time. I look insane. And then they're like, okay, bye. Like, thanks so much for supporting. Like, blah blah blah. I leave the other side of the curtain to like the exit side, go get my picture, and it's like a spell broke, and I was back to normal, and I was like, what just happened?
It's the reason I ask, and it's not throwing shade at the 501st Step by any means, because we work closely with them in the con scene, and we pretty much do very similar things. The reason I ask is because it sounds like you were more of a Star Wars person coming into nerdom or Lord of the Rings or whatever it might be than Ghostbusters itself. And no, I'm not gatekeeping the Ghostbusters community. Before someone comes at me and says that, you could send all my hate mail to Jim Norman above if you so choose. And it'll get filed right away. But what I find interesting is that you picked Ghostbusters, and you said you caught a couple of things here and there, and you're just like, this is what I'm gonna do.
And I think so. Part of it was, the charity that we're doing, like that we're helping fundraise for, it's a really important thing we're doing, like to help these kids have better quality of care, better quality of life. That really tugs at my heartstrings. But also, I think that this seemed like far more approachable to someone who is new to even cosplaying than maybe some other. A lot of groups like they're kind of broad and they'll accept a lot of different types of costumers and cosplayers. But yeah, it was one of those like, okay, let me like my first, technically a first event, pizza night, it was kind of to like figure out the vibe. Like, how is it? Is it awkward? Is it fun? Is it clicky? Like, I loved that I just walked in and people just started going, "Hi, I'm so and so. Who are you?" Like, shake my hand.
That was me. I just forced my friendship on everybody until they like me. I mean,
yeah. If I remember, there were a couple people in like matching like Hawaiian type shirt button-ups that were like Ghostbuster specific, and they seemed to be the ones who did a lot of like the like, "Hey everyone, shut up, I have something to say." So I was like, I need to ask those people who they are, what they do. And nothing's changed. That's how our PA system works at events.
Hey,
we may not yell "shut up" in public, but hey, potato sacks.
The sentience of potato sacks.
But yeah, I think it once I started to dig back in the movies, it really was that like especially like I'm lucky enough to have a good relationship with both my parents, and it really tugged on me too because it was something that my dad really liked. And in my head growing up, I remember like watching it with him and always kind of equating him to Egon a little bit because he was super nerdy. And I was like, this guy's super nerdy. And my dad had like kind of similar hair in the 90s. And I was like, look, he looks like you kind of, because he's a very tall man with that kind of poof. Sorry, Dad.
I'm not sorry, Dad. This is a heartwarming story.
So I think that's always kind of pulled me towards Ghostbusters too. Not that he was like a mega fan by any means, but he was a big fan enough to make sure that I was seeing the movies when I was younger.
That's good.
So, yeah.
And that's what I was getting at here, guys, is I'm trying to figure out the playing ground there. That's wonderful. Yeah. So you come around and you got your potato sack together, and the first dozen or so events I was with you at, because last year I did a lot more than what I'm doing now because of health stuff, obviously. But
yeah,
back when I first when I was more involved, I seen you and you were doing the potato sack thing, and then somewhere down the line I look and we have a Slymer now, and I missed that event that you were at, that you did the Slymer thing, and I'm looking and I'm like, I haven't seen someone in our group do a Slymer since I like first started. And he's long since retired from doing this. And I was like, who's the Slymer? And then at the time I was the VP on the team, and they're like, oh dude, it's Krystyn. I was like, get out of here. Because you don't see a ton of costume outside of potato sack people or lab coat people now. Outside of that, you don't see a ton of character ghostbusting cosplay that do things with groups. Brienne's my perfect example because she's like staple Stay Puffed, right? That is
absolutely.
She's one of the. I wish she'd sign up to. I don't know if she did or didn't, but we're gonna get her. I'm gonna make her come on. So I'm used to just seeing her, and Brienne's got a very way of doing things, and she's very good at what she does. And so I here comes Slymer, and it's just and dancing with kids at events. And I was like, I would have never. Not anything against you. I just would have never pictured that. So where did Slymer come in is where I'm interested. Like, where did you just wake up one day and you're like, I'm ditching a potato sack and I'm wearing this green puff thing forever. Like, where did that come in?
So I think actually definitely got a little bit of inspiration from seeing Brie at different shows of like, oh, like people do like characters and like in pictures and stuff, like even like joining groups online, seeing other groups that also have like the orange dress Dana, or there's like there's little pieces of other like main characters, but other characters all around, and I was like, someone's missing.
Probably the most important.
Well, and like getting to know everyone and kind of catching the vibe of like, okay, who are we? What do we do at like even from the smallest like library con to like fan expo, to like fundraising events in between. I I kind of wanted to offer up another way for folks to interact with us, but like specifically for kids, because if I was looking around and I was like, just a bunch of adults in khaki suits, given the kids love the flashing lights and noises that the packs make. But I was like, what's another way if we're gonna be like a group that's supporting a child specific organization, like an organization that is helping children like on a daily basis. I want to see what we can do to like have the kids pulled into this too when we're out and about. So I started doing my research, and mostly there's a lot of like the blow up type Slymers online, and they all have nightmare faces. They're so scary.
Yes, I'm familiar. I've seen them.
It's flat and it's terrifying. So I finally found, I think it was like HalloweenCostumes.com. They have a bunch of stuff, but they had that specific Slymer as well. Also, admittedly, terrifying face, but better than the other options.
Yours is a very welcoming.
It's friendly.
Well, it's the same thing with Bree. Bree's face is very welcoming when she dons the makeup and throws it on. It's a very open, welcome thing. And I use Bree as an example because she's been doing it the longest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I painted on mine. You'll see is different from other folks who've done it. I painted the iris is yellow because it kind of like, this is orange, but it goes from like, they had it red, so it looked like demon eyes, and I was like, this is really scary. But yeah, so I guess truly it all just came out of wanting to kind of like, for myself a little selfishly, be able to just kind of clown around more. But then also just having that element of like a goofy golden retriever, essentially, like that then kids can like interact with. And that's honestly my favorite part of any event now, is like having like the little ones just like come up for a high five or like want to get a picture with me. They might not even know who I am, but I'm a giant green fuzzy thing, and they're just like, a picture? I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. I can't say no.
That's wonderful. I mean, you guys knock it out of the park. There's many, for every 1,000 potato sacks, you see maybe one doing something a little different. And it's so cool to see like what you and Harry and Bree are pulling off on our team. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Doing events side by side with Bree is really fun too. Cause part of it is I try not to speak in the costume because I've found that can be scary to kids to have this human voice coming out of like a stuffed animal, essentially.
We got to shove a kazoo in your mouth when you're in. Yeah.
Yeah. But so Bree will kind of like translate sometimes for like, oh no, Slymer doesn't want to be hit. Or like introducing, or like when a kid comes up and is looking at her and is like, oh my gosh, like you're like a princess, and I'm pointing at like the sparkles, and like it's fun. It's kind of fun to work together on that too.
It's really cool. And it's great to see a dynamic with I don't want to say folk like you, but the folk like you guys are out there doing it, and it's you're doing something different. And I would argue that Stay Puft and Slymer are almost more iconic than the khaki jumpsuits.
I would also argue that, mostly because I am in the Slymer costume. Also, anytime you see me in the Slymer costume, just know I am dying and sweating inside. I
once wore because I got a gift from my friend out on the Eastern Seaboard Ghostbusters, and he gave me his modified walking Stay Puft suit.
Oh,
that's 12 feet.
Yeah,
it's miserable. So I understand the hot. I did it once. There's a reason I don't do it twice.
That's an actual. It was originally a blow up, like a stand.
It was a lawn ornament that he converted to wear, and you strap yourself into this rig.
I want to use it.
Like, sure, be my guest. It's miserable. We got to get it rewired, and the wiring kind of broke on it. It's nice, got to get it fixed. But I got to say though, it's really cool to see like what you guys are doing. So we got a little bit more time, which means we're going to get to the lightning round. Man, I'm going to bug you for 2 questions because you have a very important duty here, right? You have your own proton pack, so I got to ask you first, what's your pack's name?
So once someone posed the question, I was like, oh, I need to name my pack.
Everybody's got a name for their pack. Everybody does.
So I have a few options, but I haven't officially picked one yet. I didn't think about this.
Ooh, okay. What do you call yourself as Slymer? Now, I get it. Slymer is the correct answer. And I know Rick cleverly calls you Slymer.
Yep, with the Y.
But what do you call yourself when you're in Slymer mode? And don't just use the word Slymer. Is there like, I'm the Windy City Slymer. I am the Chicago Slymer. I am whatever. Like, what is that name for you? What is that that personification you're building towards?
So when I guess this is kind of this doesn't directly answer the question, but I promise we'll get there. So when I was younger, I guess one of the things, I guess it technically isn't a nerdy thing, but it is definitely like a kind of thing. I did clowning for 4-H for like 4 years. So I in elementary school spent my summers dressing up in like full clown costume and doing like our parade, doing other events. And so I think that's how I at least got to that point of like being able to just have a character in public. But I think spawning from that over time, what I call myself in the Slymer costume is a chaos gremlin. What I actually would tell people that in the Slymer costume, I think Windy City Slymer is kind of what has been said for at least I've heard it past couple months. I know Josh, he made me the banner that's on my Facebook page. He used Windy City Slymer, and then I've had other people mention like they'll say it like the way Rick spells it. When we're talking in chat, but otherwise I think Windy City Slymer. It doesn't mean I have to be the only one. If there's a day comes where someone else wants to be Slymer, that would be so much fun. Like JR's
because that means you get to be something else.
No, it means that we're gonna have so many Slymers just running around everyone.
What I mean by that is I know in your heart of hearts that you have your eyes thought on different creatures because you and I have had this conversation before. So what is in the future of Krystyn as far as Ghostbusters cosplay? Because I know you're not just going to stop at Slymer.
So I think one that I keep coming back to is doing Vigo.
I love it.
Because my hair is light enough that if I just like put a ton of gel in it, slicked it back, and walked around and just looked at everyone disapprovingly.
The Billy Idol snarl.
Yeah. That one would be a lot of fun to do because I feel like I would just like I could be the like punchline by just standing in the background and just like scowling at everyone. I think that that's definitely I think my top one. The day a good quality Pukey costume comes out is the day we get a Pukey. And not a blow up, but something like of substance. If there's a way that I could, spoilers for Frozen Empire if you haven't seen it, if there's a way that I could dress up as a pizza and crawl across the ground, I may also do that.
That's wonderful.
That might be a little too niche still since the movie only came out a few months ago. But that would be another option.
Also, folks, this is the time in the stream where I advise all of you, if you have not hit that follow button, make sure you guys hit that follow button. Why We Bust comes out every week. You do not see this handsome face all the time. I just step in for Krystyn when things like this happen or if something comes up. Krystyn's usually the host of the show. And we were talking about doing the Ghostbusters tabletop stream once a month or maybe something. So keep eye out for that. But yeah, make sure you guys hit that follow button, no matter what platform you're watching us on, YouTube or Twitch. Facebook, I'm assuming you already like us if you're watching the stream. And maybe you're a Ghostbusters fan and you want to be in the hot seat to be interviewed to find out why you bust. There will be a brand new form available tomorrow for you guys to sign up. So just a quick PSA before we move on. have you ever considered being Sam Hain? Because you have the perfect structure to be Sam Hain.
Yes, I think that's one we talked about too. Yeah, that definitely is not only, I think, an attainable one with my skill set, because I would want to like sew my own cape, and I'm pretty sure I could do that. But that would be a really fun one. I would probably do that before I would do a Vigo, honestly.
I love it. It's a good one. And quick thing, I have one of the funniest punchlines I've ever seen in a Ghostbusters chat, and it says Vigo is framed. And
I just see that now.
That is my finest cosplay. And then Shannon asked both, could you do a somersault as Pukey, and could we get you a green confetti blower to puke green slime?
1, I will make it happen. 2, we need to make it happen. Because my first thought was like, because his hands are kind of just low on his side, so I assume a costume I could do with Pukey, I would just have my hands inside of the thing, so I could like open the mouth and like spray like fun something out. I don't know, but a confetti thing would be really funny, actually.
I love that. And then Rudy says the Boogeyman, which Circle City just debuted theirs a couple weeks ago. Their first Boogeyman. Yeah, and he looked great. I think it was Nick Farnsworth in that costume. Looks fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yes. So you got this idea now. You got your feet running where you're like, you know what, I don't mind wearing a potato sack when the calls for it, but I just want to do something a little different. And you got these plans going forward, and we still have a little bit of time, which means I'm not at the question yet, but I'm building up to it. Is now that you got your feet wet, you also decided to jump headfirst into leadership, which you don't ever see. Yeah. It is extremely rare unless you're Norm, and like your first like year of doing it, it's just like, yeah, you're qualified to do this job. And primarily it's my fault because I make people run for leadership. So like, why, you were enjoying the team that much that you wanted to get involved with that, huh?
Yeah.
Other than I kind of forced you.
That too. I know, but like I had one other person from leadership, and then I had like 2 people who were not in leadership who were like, you need to be in leadership. You need to be involved. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. Okay. So I wanted truly like, once the thought was put in my head, I was like, that makes sense, because it is something that like I do enjoy being a part of this. And so I wanted to be so much of a part of it to help like move it forward, bring it along, start creating change, and like just getting kind of helping, even if all I can do is, I don't know, say something really, I think, really funny in chat and 2 people like it. You know what? I made our day a little bit better in leadership chat. But yeah, no, I do enjoy like learning a little more about, like, because I'm on the events committee. So being able to learn more in the beginning about like, how do you find events to do? Which ones are appropriate for us? Which ones have we done? And seeing like how we can expand. That was the biggest part of it, was wanting to make sure my goal, every person in Chicago, when you say, oh, Windy City Ghostbusters, they're like, oh yeah, because Chicago has a group of Ghostbusters. Like that was my goal, honestly.
Yeah. What is your how do I ask this? What's the best way you can describe your relationship with Ghostbusters now versus like kid Krystyn watching Ghostbusters with her dad? Like, how would that work if you went time traveling and you saw you and your dad watching Ghostbusters on the couch, right? And you were just like, hey, look what I do in 20 odd years, you know?
Well, I think first little Krystyn would scream, why are you here? And then I'm here from the future to tell you. I think, I just don't think little Krystyn knew what was coming. Like, there's definitely, my entire life now is not what I expected, being younger, but especially when it came to nerdy stuff, because like it wasn't cool to like be a nerd and like wanted to try to fit in. And I mean, I was homeschooled for a short time, so trying to fit in when I started public school was like a big deal. And I think part of me wishes I would have held on to more of like my nerdy type inclinations when I was younger, but I like where I am now, so I'm happy for the path of like getting here. But yeah, I think there's my knowledge behind Ghostbusters has expanded a lot. My knowledge behind like even like how movies are made and what they do, and like being able to see all the behind the scenes stuff and the people I've been able to meet, the connections I've been able to make in this is so much fun. Especially being Slymer, even though a lot of times when someone's like, hey, I'm an important person, and I'm like, ah. But being able to have that like kind of lasting impression. So yeah, little Krystyn would probably think that this is weird, but it's pretty cool.
So we have a burning question on our mind, Krystyn, and it is eating away. It is eating away not only at me, but our audience across the world. Why do you bust? Or why do you slime? Why do you slime?
Why do you slime? So I think it overall, truly, I think it started with learning about the charity La Rabida that we help support, seeing the other charities we help support, knowing that something as simple as like a bunch of nerds hanging out in potato sacks with a Stay Puft marshmallow and a Slymer, that they can affect some kind of good in the world. You know, we are not pulling in like maybe gigantic numbers that some larger, like much larger nonprofits might pull, but what we're doing is still important. And what we're even in person, like I think it's really nice for some people to go to an event and see literally their childhood displayed in front of them, get to see the packs and play with the packs. Like that effect is important, just as important, to be able to like bring that like childhood nostalgia to people and like make like put smiles on their face. And then for me personally, the biggest thing is being able to put smiles on the kids' faces. There's so many stories now. I think actually MJ mentioned one in chat or like nodded towards it. There of like at the plane pull we just did, there's a little girl who saw me and literally went, ah, and hid behind her dad. Like she turned around and saw Slymer and was like, oh my God, what is that? Within about 10 minutes, best friends. She wanted to come up and give me like fist bumps constantly, high fives constantly. She'd run up to me, do it, and run away, and she's just smiling and giggling. Same thing at like one of the library cons we did a couple months ago now. Little girl, terrified. 15 minutes later, we're friends, and she is coming up to me for the next hour, bringing me random things from throughout the library to just show me. And then she takes it back, and her mom is just cracking up because she just kept coming back and forth with the random stuff. So just being able to put smiles on people's faces, I think it's very important to me. It's what brings me joy, to bring them joy.
Well, I think that was probably one of the better answers we've ever had.
Aww.
Good for you. You did good. Norm, I'm proud of you too. You're doing such a good job up there. So this is the part of the show when I tell you, hey guys, did you know that your lovely host here with this beautiful face also Twitch streams and hosts his own content creation? And Norm can't boot me off, baby. There we go. Guys, go over to twitch.tv.com/BobAfterDarkPlays. I'm about to be live over there in about 40 seconds. So, Chris, I just want to thank you so much for letting me turn the tables on you.
Absolutely.
You were an amazing guest, and I'm going to be sitting where Norm's at next week helping produce. So I'm a man of many hats, to say the least. You are a great, fantastic, wonderful person, and you are going to go very far in this hobby.
Thank you. I hope so, because y'all are crazy, but I love you guys.
Oh, I'm not crazy.
Everyone in chat too. All of y'all.
I'm just a little unwell. You know what I'm saying? Guys, thank you for watching Why We Bust. Make sure you jump on over to our link tree. It's all on our Facebook page. If you're watching on Twitch and you haven't done so already, make sure you click that follow button. That's really important to us. Hit that bell icon so you can get notified every time we do the things. Thank you guys for watching. Now get on over to Bob After Dark Plays. And Norm, do you have any closing words for the audience?
Wow, that was
Be
great.
excellent to each other. Something. Come on. He's muted. He don't matter. So I could just ad lib for him. Hi, my name is Jim Norman, and you should be watching Bob After Dark Plays as soon as this is over. Krystyn, you got any closing words for the audience tonight?
I will see you guys next week.
Next week. Catch you guys later. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night.